Thank you guys very much for joining our webinar today entitled Empowering Your ServiceNow Administrator, Getting Pro Code Results Without Actually Coding. And for those that don't know by the title, who may not have figured it out, Pro Code Results, what we mean by that is that's not a common term, means, when people are using ServiceNow, they like to use it because it's so easy to create an application, so easy to use without actually having to go into the deep, dark scripting level of development. However, if you want to start using more customizations, if you want to start getting things to do more advanced features, sometimes that requires a level of coding that not everyone has. And so what we're here today to do is to show you how to solve some problems that you might think requires serious development skills that actually don't, and there are ways for you to develop the solution ahead of time so that you can do that with only configuration solutions, if that makes sense. My name is Tim Lee with Cerna Solutions. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. But right now, let's go ahead and get started. All right. If you don't already know Cerna Solutions, and again, thank you for joining us today, Cerna specializes in improving the way you use ServiceNow so that you can really maximize the platform. And we have unique products and services that are focused around automated testing, service portal consulting, which is a large focus for us, as well as virtual administrative services, just to name a few. However, as you can see here, we have quite a few offerings from ITSM, ITOM, security, integrations. We have our unique products. Anything that you might be looking for, we would love to talk with you about and get you in the room with some of the experts that can really help you to take your ServiceNow to the next level, or get it to do what you would really like to see it do, or even that you don't even know that it can do. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to our presenter, the reason we're all here today, Mr. Will Smith, technical consultant with Cerna Solutions. He has 7 years of service level management experience. He has over 3 years, actually probably closer to 4 years, I should have changed that, of ServiceNow consulting. And he is ITIL V3 certified, Six Sigma yellow belt, a foodie, dessert connoisseur, and a coffee addict. Hey, Will, when you say dessert connoisseur, what are you referring to?
Yeah, my family just made me some awesome eclairs. They were delicious. You should try one.
I'll have to try that sometime. Thanks, Will.
Yeah. All right, so let's get right to it. The agenda we're going to talk through today is a quick intro to data-driven development. We're going to take a look at the features, the attributes, and the benefits that you can get from using data-driven development principles. We'll discuss some real-world applications. I'll walk you through a quick demo where we build a simple process using data-driven development. There'll be some next steps, and then obviously we'll take any questions you guys may have. So what is data-driven development? Well, it's kind of self-defining. It's using data to drive development efforts instead of using code. This is usually achieved through custom tables. So from a high level, you build your table, you add the relevant fields, which we'll cover later on in the demo, and if needed, you set up a workflow to capture and process the data in these fields. If you do use a workflow, you can manipulate that workflow with data from the table instead of using business rules or scripts or scripts inside the workflow. So data-driven development does a number of things. It allows operational data to drive business process. It distributes operational tasks. So in the real world, right, tasks are how things get done. Operational tasks in ServiceNow are typically denoted by the table name with the phrase task in it, right? So change task, service catalog task, things like that. It also front loads development and testing efforts. So this benefit allows for early development and testing to iron out any issues in your solution or application. There's no development needed when business processes are updated. So we all know that business processes can change frequently, and who wants to poke around in hundreds of lines of code across 3 scripts and a button when they do? Not me. Operational data and behavior is specific to a certain scenario that occurs in the workplace. It can change at any time and with little warning. If it's operational data, it should be stored as data in a table not code in a script. This differs from application behavior, which is stored in properties and code. For example, when you're copying a change request, the change application looks to a system property to get the list of fields to copy. This drives the change request application's behavior. I'm just highlighting the differences between operational data and application behavior to show you the 1,000-foot view from an architect's perspective. Today, though, we're going to be focused on operational data. So think of your admin as a superhero. All of you admins out there are heroes. I've been in your shoes. Consider yourself as a billionaire philanthropist with a cape. When there's an issue at work, you're the ones who jump into action and rely on the best technology. As awesome as Batman is, though, every superhero needs help. They're made even more effective by someone behind the scenes. James Bond has Q, Batman has Alfred, the nerdy engineer types who make the suits, weapons, gadgets, and vehicles. Batman is intelligent and cunning, but he can't be everywhere. Why else does he have that giant bat light in the sky? To get help from his community, of course. And that's why you're here, to learn from us, so that you can take away a new approach to obstacles and think about how to face your challenges from a fresh perspective. After all, it comes down to the lab-coded Four Eyes who takes your admin from a hero to a superhero. So let's talk about some features of data-driven development. There's no inputs in your code. Inputs in this context are fields that are updated by a user, a configuration, or an integration. If it's an input to your logic, it should not live behind a wall of code. Where to put these inputs, though, depends on the scenario and complexity of what you're working on. If it's just a few items, system properties are the perfect place to store this information. If you're building something complex with lots and lots of potential inputs, you would turn to a table to house your operational data. At which point you should think, is there already a table out there I can use, or do I need to make a new one? It's data-centric. Who likes data? Raise your hand. I'm a nerd. I enjoy data. I could actually see myself being a data scientist one day. And as I mentioned earlier, operational data happens inside the enterprise and has a high probability of transformation. Once the design is confirmed and finalized, an application's behavior is not likely to change, but it may be extended or enhanced. Speaking of change, no one likes change, but it is the one constant we all have to face. And when change happens, one surefire way to delay a project is going back to your developers and asking them to rewrite large portions of their application. What if we could make a decision early on to use as many data-driven development methods as possible? Just think of how much time savings it would be to your heroic admins to allow them to rework a process in ServiceNow without having to code a thing. It also makes things simpler. Using these techniques simplifies product development by allowing for processes to be driven by forms and dropdowns rather than potentially complex APIs. Testing is easier to diagnose, as it's plain to see, and an admin doesn't need to pour through scripts to find an issue in an application. Operational deployments now go off without a hitch due to faster testing and easier product development. This results in faster delivery times and a greater stability in your overall product. Some attributes are that it's scalable. Digging through scripts and complex workflows is a pain. An attribute of data-driven development allows for scalability, as all that's required is adjusting a few dropdowns. There's also separation of the data and the logic, and by separating those, you have increased modularity, tasks are more clearly defined, and work can be easily distributed to the appropriate teams. It's flexible. Like I mentioned before, business processes change. We all know this. When this happens, you can quickly modify a form. No need to touch workflows. The ease of the ServiceNow platform combined with data-driven dev gives you an enterprise-wide realignment in a flash. It's also testable. It's much easier to test data than code. Form inputs and choice lists can be validated quicker than trying to locate the needle in a stack of needles or the missing parentheses in a rabbit hole of script includes. This solution allows for less development and higher operational achievements. Some benefits that you can gain from data-driven development are lower maintenance costs. We've discussed the feature of no development needed for business process change. This gives you lower maintenance costs. Also, by coding up front, you get some pretty awesome features, attributes, and benefits in the back end of the project. There's also easier administration. By designing early, you get the benefit of being able to bring in all the necessary folks you need, your designers, developers, and admins, so a solution can be crafted and configuration can begin. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but fail early and fail often. By doing this, you can isolate all issues up front and allow for quicker testing and easier administration. It's also visible. By using data-driven development techniques, you can offer increased visibility across the board. Everyone from admins all the way up to management can easily read and interpret what's going on inside your application. And this is achieved by, I'm going to say it again, not hiding behind walls of complex code. Putting data and process in front of as many people as possible provides transparency and helps build trust. All right, so let's talk about some real-world applications. Some examples of data-driven development. Out of the box, you get data lookups and assignment rules. So ServiceNow has done this with data lookups with the incident priority, as well as using assignment rules, which are used across the platform. Both of these solutions could have been performed with a script, but ServiceNow chose to use a no-code solution to allow admins to easily update common items like those assignment rules. For the advanced level users, I'm going to walk you through a simple custom solution where we're going to talk about incident escalation, and then I'm going to demonstrate that. For the advanced level users, though, why not try your hand at building a service catalog fulfillment solution, either with or without approval? Remember, with a personal developer instance and these techniques, the skies really are the limit. All right, so let's go build. Let me go demo for you the quick process that I built with data-driven development. So close your eyes for a minute and pretend you're sitting in the help desk, right? You're somewhat new and you get an incident like this. Open your eyes. It's a network issue and the building Wi-Fi is down. So you don't know who to escalate this incident to. But thankfully, your developers and admins have taken care of you. They created an incident escalation lookup table. So real quickly, I'm going to walk you through this. So I created a new table, added some commonly used items in the incident. So we've got our current group here. We have the escalation group. So you can see which group you want to escalate to. And then I've also added some additional things like priority, business service, category, subcategory for additional filtering. And I added a handy tier option at the right side here, where you could add that to the solution to show which tier you're going to be assigning to. So let me quickly show you how it works. So we're back in our incident, and I need to escalate this thing. I click the escalation path button to get our next escalation path, and I'm presented with a number of options. Network, change management. So since this is a network issue, I'm going to go ahead and select network. And when I do, you'll see the assignment group is set to network over here. And then I get a handy little info message just reminding me that what it was set to. So let me quickly demo for you how I went ahead and did this. We've got a simple UI action, a client-side UI action here. And I'm just getting the assignment group ID. I'm doing a quick logic check if there is a group ID. So, if for some reason somebody doesn't fill out the assignment group, we don't want to start looking for groups that don't exist. So we show them an error message. But once we have our group ID, we go ahead and build a quick glide modal, giving it a title, and then passing in the group ID to one of our preferences. So after we render that, that actually uses UI pages. So here's the UI page. You can see right here on line 3, I pass in the group ID. I set some quick styles for my buttons, and then I evaluate my variable right here on line 16. We do a quick glide record lookup on our incident escalation table. And then when they pick a button, we go ahead and pass over the group sysid and the group name back to the form so that we can display it in the message. So when they click, we run this onSelect function, setting the value of the assignment group and adding that info message that you saw earlier. All right, so some simple ways that you could take this incident escalation table and make it a little more advanced is you could pull it out of the incident context. You could add a field that relates to the tables, and you could make it an escalation lookup and then select the table that you want to perform the escalation lookup against. So think incident, problem, change, service catalog, things like that. All right, so that's the quick demo. Let me flip back over to the slides. So now what? We've seen some slides and talked through data-driven development principles. I showed you a quick demo of how I built a data-driven development process. So if you're a developer, you can now offload some of your work over to your admins. If you're an admin, you now get the chance to collaborate with your developers and provide useful feedback and design considerations. For all you managers, you should be making sure that data-driven solution architecture is being investigated as your go-to method for future success, rather than solely focusing on putting out today's fires. Thank you very much. And Tim will take any questions that you guys may have. Tim, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we do have questions right now. Thank you, Will. And great job. Thank you for doing that. And one thing I wanted to ask you right now, and I'm going to remind everyone that you can obviously still go in and throw your questions into the panel. It looks like a few people have already done that. But I wanted to ask you, I mean, one of the things that I know we talked about before the webinar was how you wanted to give an idea of an architect's perspective on handling some, common everyday ServiceNow issues. How do you feel that this strategy is kind of fulfilling that architect's perspective, and what did you exactly mean by that specifically?
Yeah, great question. So that architect's perspective is just kind of, like I mentioned, getting outside of the firefighting and kind of looking at solutions from a holistic perspective. And so using these methods and these principles that we talked about today, you can design and craft solutions that can apply to multiple areas of the business, right? So you look at things and you kind of build your solution around how can I affect and how can I help the most people at any given time. Any other questions?
And what about in terms of taking this to the next level? What are some more advanced versions of this this process that you think could be applied?
Yeah. So like I was demoing there, that table, you could certainly take that table and take it out of the incident context and apply it to, say, service catalog fulfillment. right? With and without approval. We're actually doing that for a client right now. So we're building a very similar table where we're using data-driven development principles to create catalog tasks with a specific order. And they can either choose to have approvals or to not have approvals. And they pick the groups and everything that was shown on the table that I showed you. So that would be the kind of the advanced level technique, as well as
Okay.
spicing up that modal window, giving a little more info and context there if you needed to.
Sure. One question that we received was they wanted a clarification that instead of using the assignment rules out of box, you are using custom tables and scripts to query those custom tables. I guess that's what they wanted they wanted verification. So there's a question mark at the end of that sentence. So so instead of using assignment rules out of box, you're using custom tables and scripts to query those custom tables? Sorry, I have to put it that way for it to sound like a question.
No, you're okay. So, and I'm sorry, it's still a little fuzzy, but I am using the assignment rules that are out of the box on the incident table. So all I did was just make a reference to incident in my custom table for the assignment group field, so it maintains all of the all of the backend dictionaries and all of the filters and queries and things like that. Does that answer the question?
I hope so. Dan, if it did not, please let us know or please clarify, and we'll be happy to answer your question again. And we had someone that asked if the code that we're using to create the escalation path UI can be posted anywhere within the handout. And Will, are we planning on making any of that code specifically available?
We certainly can. I mean, yeah, there's nothing proprietary about it. So
okay.
Yeah, if
yeah,
they
we'll
want that
make
code,
sure
we
to
can.
add that on to. We'll make sure to add that onto the handout when we email that to everyone afterwards. So thanks for the question there. What about in terms of for applications that are already existing? Or is this something that you would need to re-implement or kind of start from scratch there, or are you able to apply this process to existing applications?
Yeah, great question. So you can definitely apply this process to existing applications. I would say you probably want to apply it to things that change frequently or that that have a lot of involvement. These techniques aren't really suited for some of your lesser used applications or things that are more of a static process.
Okay. Okay, well, great. Well, if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to throw them in now. I think we've mostly addressed what people have brought up. But thank you, everyone, for joining our webinar. Again, if you have questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, we do throw them in now. We will make sure to contact you afterwards in case we didn't get everything. But we appreciate everyone who joined today. Again, we will be sending out the handout and the recording to everyone through email. So go ahead and feel free to check that out early next week. And hopefully we will see you at the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.